Hello, and welcome to Burning Issues, the only program that provides you a glimpse inside the Wichita Fire Department. I'm Fire Marshal Brad Crisp, and in this episode we'll talk about the National Fire Prevention Week, a week-long national program designed to educate the public about the dangers of fire. Joining me today are two very special guests, Lieutenant Jose Oquedas and Lieutenant Martin Gutierrez. Both are specialists in the field of fire prevention and fire education. And so thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join me today. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Chief, for inviting us.
This is the time of year where we really like to focus the month of October on fire prevention activities. And NFPA has selected a great topic because cooking fires are a real concern, not just nationally, but in our communities. So, Jose, let's start with you. A little bit about cooking fires. What's the deal? How can people do stuff?
The number one cause of cooking fires really is not the actual cooking, it's the attention span that the citizens are paying to when they start a task. And basically, unattended cooking is the number one cause of house fires right now. They start cooking, and then they get preoccupied with something else, either having with kids or other chores around the house, or go outside because of a neighbor or something. So they forget what they really started initially.
Right. Nationally, there was over 150,000 fires in homes that were contributed to cooking. The number here is consistent with that. We didn't have that many fires, but the volume of fires that we have from cooking. So what happens? Somebody puts some grease on the stove, and then what's kind of the sequence of events? How does it lead to a cooking fire?
Well, basically, you're hungry and you start cooking, or as you home from work, everybody's tired, or just even coming home from school or work, whatever you just come from, and you start cooking for the family, and you start a task. Basically, again, attention, or just having other things to do, things to do list, and you're trying to multitask, and this really where it comes from is that you forget one thing that you started because you're doing another task, jump into another one. And basically it starts on the stove, especially in grease fires, overheating, catches on fire, and then that's really where it all starts, and you have your smoke alarm activations and start your evacuation process.
Right. So the thing starts small and it can get big quick, and not only are cooking fires a problem, Martin, injuries are a big problem, right? Because the fire's the fire, but then it leads to the leading cause of injuries, which are cooking fires. Why don't you tell us more about that?
Well, I know, was it the statistics that we had, that fires caused 420 deaths, over 5,300 injuries, and almost close to $1 billion worth of property damage.
Right.
And when Jose talks about what would make people walk away, obviously with technology the way it is nowadays and all these devices, cell phones and cordless telephones is the number one culprit for people to walk away from something that's actually cooking. So
they get a phone call, they get a text message, they get distracted.
And 2/3 of the home cooking fires started with the ignition of food and other cooking things that may have started on there. So what can we do?
Right.
As a prevention team and as a fire department in whole, making people aware of it. Think about put some reminders there. A lot of times when people do cooking, they don't even think about the surroundings when they walk away from something. What's the possibility that could happen if they did turn around and make that decision to walk away from it?
Right.
Then the fallout starts to happen.
Right.
And then what do you think most people want to do once fire is initiated out of the stove?
They want to try to make it better. That leads to the injuries, right?
Yeah. Because really think about it. The sink's right there. So they think they could just grab hold and quickly move it over. And a lot of times they may have long sleeves or loose clothing, robes, and other things that could cause things to catch on fire as they try to prevent. So leaving the fuel source at where it's at is probably the best choice they could possibly do, and think of another avenue of being able to cook it out. And you can actually tell what's the quickest way to put out a cooking fire.
Right.
Yeah, and basically, pots and pans have lids to them.
Yeah.
When you buy a set or get a set of pots and pans, they have a lid. Keep a lid nearby. Cut that oxygen source away from that fire. It's really the fire triangle. You need 3 elements in the fire triangle in order for it to be combustible, and you need fuel, heat, and oxygen. Well, in the grease fire or in the cooking fire, you want to remove the oxygen, and you'll be able to extinguish the fire. But also, as Martin mentioned, Chief, a reminder. you know, when you're simmering or you're cooking or you're baking or frying, keep a timer. Put a timer on. And as Martin said, smartphones are like stopwatches nowadays. They have so many new gadgets. You just put a timer on. 20 minutes cooking or 30 minutes baking, so that if you do forget or you do multitask, you'll still be able to remember that you did start something and you go back to it just for a reminder.
Yep. There's a scary thing that happens when you add water to a grease fire.
Yes, there is.
Our natural tendency as people is to want to put the fire out with water. If somebody fills up a pitcher full of water and there's a pan of grease on the stove that's burning, what's going to happen?
There's going to be a lot of
Fire.
debris, a lot of fire coming out. It's just
Yeah.
going to be almost like an explosion just
Exactly.
taking place. So,
Yeah.
and then that's where more burn injuries are sustained from things
Yeah.
like that as well.
There's inhalation injuries that are associated with that. You get burned from the grease splattering all over the place. It's literally a small fire explosion, and that's just not a good option. Never, ever try to put water on a grease fire. You'd mentioned a lid. You know, sometimes we lose those things. Sometimes the lid disappears. You can wet down a heavy cloth, right, and put it over the fire. But if it's to that point, if you can't get it out by putting the lid on it or even possibly using a dry chemical fire extinguisher, you probably ought to call 911.
Well, anytime you have some type of incident, always call 911. But at the same time, you know, if you did lose your lid, we always also like to educate the public, as in cookie sheets. Cookie sheets are just as effective. They're more effective because you don't have to get that close to the fire itself.
True.
Also, you know, we've even mentioned pizza pans. You know, yeah, they have little holes on them, but you are eliminating the oxygen and that fire long enough to be able to extinguish and turn off the eyelid and move the pot and just leave everything there. So,
you know, and all the cooking fires don't always start on top of the stove, right? On top of the range. Sometimes they're in the oven itself. And one of the most effective ways to extinguish that is to just turn the power off, leave the door closed, because the oxygen is going to be consumed. And if you need to, obviously you can call 911 because there's going to be smoke produced. But man, just leave it in there. Don't try to take it out and take it to the sink.
That's the hardest thing that people, you know, in our culture, our thing is put it out.
Yeah.
And we see fire in the oven or even in the microwave for that matter. And all we really think about is how we're going to open the door and put it out. But we can't seem to think just to leave it alone and then put itself out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, they see the fire and they start panicking. So they don't really think clearly or able to think, okay, what's the safest manner that we can handle this situation? Remember, the oven and even the microwave, it's invented and it's created, or its intentions are to keep heat inside.
Right.
So basically, if you just keep that oven door closed or the microwave door closed, it's going to eat up the oxygen inside. And then basically the fire will extinguish itself.
Yep. So some of the other cooking apparatus that we use, barbecue grills on the deck, turkey fryers. Let's talk about those briefly. Barbecue grills, you know, a lot of people are going to propane, and when used appropriately and safely, they're fine, right? Absolutely. But there's still some things we need to do. So why don't we talk, Martin, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things people can do with their barbecue grills?
Well,
first?
obviously, the thing about barbecues, first of all, is people just are accustomed where it's located at. They may have it in a position in their home or on their back patio where they use it all the time. But, you know, the rules are they got to be at least 10 feet away from
your house.
From the home.
Right.
If you're using charcoal briquettes, you have to be aware of the fallout of those as well, the catch-alls underneath, because it can start a decking on fire.
Absolutely.
10 feet. The other thing you need to consider is with heavy winds, especially here in Kansas, the wind could easily knock over the device and put it up against the home or the decking and start it on fire as well. And probably also with the charcoal briquettes is, once they're done with them, what do? They let it set there maybe several days. They want to come back out and do something else again. They pull out a paper bag and empty the burnt briquettes into the bag and then don't think anything of it. But they don't realize that inside there still may be a hot core in there that's
for 3 to 4 days.
At least. So what should we do? Easy. Shovel it into a metal bucket with a metal lid, drown it with water, and let it set for a day or two.
Absolutely.
And then come back and dispose of it at that point. So
another good tip is to keep those grease traps cleaned. You know, clean the top of the grill off. Regular cleaning maintenance. And if there is a fire in a barbecue grill, close that lid down. turn off the fuel source, right? Turn off the propane. And if you need to, you can grab a fire extinguisher or a garden hose just in case. But eventually it's going to go out because it's going to consume the fuel and burn itself out.
You know, we talk about, frying. You brought up the term, turkey frying. And obviously Thanksgiving is one of those days that we seem to have, not just Wichita, but everywhere else.
Right.
The fires tend to be a little higher than normal.
Yep.
And turkey fryers, for one example, especially people who are inexperienced with them, you can't put them in a semi-thawed-out turkey. The other thing is when you're filling your reservoir up or your pot with oil, you need to think about the weight and how much oil is going to flow over the top of that.
Yeah, the turkeys are going to displace some of that oil.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's going to rise that level. And if it sprinkles over onto that open flame that you're using to heat it with, boom, fire.
Big fire.
And then, and a lot of things that fires occur from us, too, is personnel use it inside their garages because of the inclement weather outside. It's cold, it's raining, it's snowing, and they're like, hey, we'll just do it inside the garage. And when they don't follow the manufacturer's instructions on how to properly fry a turkey, incidents like this happen inside the garage, and that's really a big exposure inside.
Yeah, they need to be outside away from the home, preferably on concrete sidewalk. Brick furniture or patio or
10 to 15 feet away from any type of structure, including wooden fences outside in your yard.
Absolutely. Let's switch gears just a little bit. We've been talking a lot about cooking safety, and those things are very important to remember, but we need to have those smoke alarms in our home just in case something does happen. It's an ordinance in Wichita, obviously the state of Kansas as well. So let's just talk briefly about smoke alarms and their importance. Jose, let's start with you. Why are smoke alarms important? What do they do for people who live in
Smoke alarms are very important because they save lives. It's been proven, throughout the United States and even here in Wichita also, especially this past year, the fires that we've had, they've had smoke alarms. And basically, maintenance is very easy. Anybody could do them, just change your batteries out twice a year during daylight saving times and see how old your smoke alarm is. A lot of the citizens in Wichita are not aware that smoke alarm is only good for 10 years. Yeah. And after 10 years, it's time to purchase a new unit of smoke alarm and reinstall it inside. But also the thing is that there's two types of smoke alarms that are for sale right now. Ionization types of smoke alarms and are more responsive to flaming fires, and photoelectric type of smoke alarms are for smoldering fires. They both are activated when there's some type of emergency in your house. The best kind that you can get, find a dual purpose one that do both of them install up inside of your house. So and proper placements, Martin, we always tell them, more than one in their house, more than likely, but
a lot of the times when people buy smoke alarms, they think, where do I put these things? And common sense kind of tell them, well, I need to have one over here kind of between all the bedrooms. Of course, we want that for alertness during the night when they're asleep, but people also are putting wrong types of smoke alarms like near the kitchen.
Yeah, bad place for one, right?
If you really think, if you've got a smoke alarm going off every time you cook something or even burn toast or cook toast for that matter, you've got the wrong type of device there. Right. I don't necessarily, I know we don't endorse them to put them in the kitchen so much here to say, but some are just offset. So if it did get crazy, then you can go somewhere off that area and hear it, be alerted by it. But you need to have them at every level of the home as well. Yeah. And think about where the possibilities are. And I'm a big advocate for if you have hardwired in your home and you need to replace, because you do have to replace the hardwired ones as well. Yeah. Make sure it has a battery backup, because there are a lot of older detectors out there that don't have. Yeah.
Well, if the power goes out because of a thunderstorm or something like that, you're still protected if you have a battery backup in place.
Yes.
Over 3,000 people died in the United States last year who did not have working smoke alarms in their homes. And smoke alarms are designed to alert you and your family that there's an emergency and that you need to get out and call 911. And if you don't have smoke alarms, you've just taken that element of safety. Smoke alarms never sleep away from you and your family.
And the thing is, and also with the NFPA, they just added to their smoke alarms curriculum is that basically we always want to make sure that, you hear that chirp, you're waited too long to change your batteries. Yeah. So, let's change your batteries twice a year. We always ask you, daylight saving times again, but majority of the time, statistically, citizens only change them once a year, which is good, but as long as they're being activated. Another thing, as you said, a lot of people, the 3,000 deaths occur because they don't have working smoke alarms. Well, usually they don't have smoke alarms, but they also remove their batteries because it's a nuisance alarm. Sure. They hear that. It might be close to the kitchen. NFPA again asks you at least 10 feet away from the kitchen area or from the steam from the bathroom right in the middle of the hallway. Another thing is that if yourself or even your children sleep with their door closed, the NFPA is now stating that, install one in the bedrooms also.
Absolutely.
Even for Martin and I, hey, guess what? You have children in your house. How heavy do you know if your children sleep?
Right.
You might have to have a fire drill in your house 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to see who's really going to hear that smoke alarm in the middle of the morning. Because if you know that your children are sleeping, you might have to take extra precautions if you do hear that smoke alarm because your loved ones are still asleep, and then start your evacuation plan.
Yeah, you got to have a plan because bad things happen at the most inopportune times, and you want to have an idea what you're going to do. Something as simple as knowing that there's more than one way out of your home. You don't have to use the front door or even the back door. You can use a window, right? And have a different plan so that you can get your family out safe and meet at a safe place out in the front of the home, not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of the fire department who's going to show up. And they're going to ask, is there anybody in the home? That's
the first question that the fire department, the first arriving crews are asking. Is everybody accounted for? Is everybody out? Number one thing that the fire department that we took the oath is life safety. We're going to risk our lives in order to be able to rescue you out of your home.
Right.
I got one more. Obviously, I'm a big, I tell people that 3 years of age is really the perfect age to start teaching your children about fire safety. They start to understand, start with the smoke alarm, explain what it is, and show them how it works.
Right.
The other part is, with technology the way it is, you don't have to have hardwired smoke alarms in your home. They do have interconnected wireless devices out there that interact with each other, and they work very effectively. And you can put them throughout your home, and if one goes off, they all go off. That's what the term interconnected means, in case the people don't understand what that term means.
Yeah, because the fire could happen in the basement, but you need to be alerted upstairs. And so they're interconnected. They communicate with one another, and they all go off if there's a fire in another part of the home.
And the great part, too, they're not that expensive.
Right. Yeah, they're fairly cheap. And with technology the way it is, they're UL listed, they're factory mutual approved, which means they're accepted by NFPA as well. And if they meet those standards, we accept them. So those can help keep your family safe. Let's talk just real quick about some of the programs that we've got going on during not only the month of October, but even throughout the year. Let's start with the Wi-Fi program. Just real briefly, Jose, were you going to talk about the Wi-Fi program?
Yes. Recently, again, this past year, we've had a couple fires that have the juveniles fighting or playing with matches and lighters. It's a big concern, not here with the city of Wichita, but throughout the United States. We have partnered up with numerous fire departments and the Fire and Burn Safety Alliance of South Central Kansas.
Right.
And basically we have a program to be able to educate the youth on matches, the dangers of youth playing with matches and lighters. And not just the youth, but also the parents. Because there's a lot of information that the parents aren't aware of.
Right.
And a lot of parents think that, oh, he just found this and he played with matches and lighters. It's not a phase. There might be something else, more curiosity in that child, the reason why he's playing with it. And if we're able to get contact with him because of the parents being proactive and contacting us, we have a youth fire setter fire safety class academy that we partner up every couple months. We have an academy on a Saturday, and we have other partners with the Juvenile Detention Center, with the District Attorney's Office, the Burn Center at St. Francis, Safe Kids, and we all come out and ComCare, and they all talk about the safety and the precautions or the incidents that can happen to them if something serious was to occur while they're playing with matches and lighters. And it's just about educating them, intervention, resource, and educating not just the child, but also the parents and for the public to be aware of.
Yeah, we're gonna throw up some information on how folks can contact us and learn more about many of these programs. And the Wi-Fi program is certainly one that's been very effective over the last 2 decades. And it's important to intervene when children start getting curious about fire, because a small fire can turn into a big fire really quick. Martin, you were wanting to mention our mobile prevention experience, which is an education tool we use. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Our mobile prevention experience is our way of saying our fire safety house.
Right.
It's a RV basically that we pull behind one of our vehicles to take to places to educate not only children but adults as well.
Right.
On the factors of fire safety. We can actually smoke up the house.
Yep.
Make people show how to crawl underneath. We can teach kitchen safety. What's also really cool about our MPE is the sprinkler room.
Yeah.
To educate about residential sprinklers. And we literally put a burning prop inside,
Right.
wait for the sprinkler head to activate,
Yeah.
and then it shoots water and then
Yeah.
puts it out.
We set a fire, and people can see how sprinkler
Effective.
systems work and how effective they are.
And
It's a really cool tool, and it's the road show. We can take it to them.
Yes.
So look for that information at the end about how to get a hold of us on how to schedule that for your school or your community event. Jose, why don't you tell us a little bit about the cooking safety classes you've been putting on in the schools?
Yes, the history of the fire department, we go out to the elementary schools from daycares and to all the way to 5th grade elementary classes, and we always educate them about fire safety. But once the kids get out of middle school, get into high school, the fire department goes away. And what we're trying to do is develop a curriculum to get out into the high schools, into their family and consumer science curriculum, to give us some time to be able to go out and re-engage with the kids at an older age, because at this age, they're starting to cook again.
Yep.
And what's our number one cause of house fires?
Cooking.
Unintended cooking fires.
Right.
So basically, if we're able to get to these individuals, to the kids in high school, teenage years, they might be able to remember this as they become adults with their families and themselves, to be able to remember, let's remember what fire safety is of unintended cooking, or just any type of cooking fires that's called in the house.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great program that's up and coming, and I think we're going to reap the benefits of that as we move down the road. You
Yes.
bet. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Martin, with you is smoking. Smoking continues to be our second leading causes of fires, but smoking on oxygen is one of those fires that really leads to a lot of injuries and potentially death. Why don't you share with our listening audience a little information on that?
Back a few years ago, our number one cause of fires and fire deaths were people who were actually smoking and on oxygen. And we did a campaign to get out there, and people who were actually doing it, people who were actually supplied oxygen, and got involved with them about education about smoking and oxygen. Still to this day, periodically I will see people who are on breathing, they're actually got oxygen in their
Right.
nose, and next thing you know, I see them pull out a cigarette getting ready to light it up. I've always used the term Russian roulette. I don't know why, but it's like spinning a dial with a bullet and putting it up to your head and then bang. I don't want to get into that, but eventually your number is going to come up. And preventing that, the safety measures, there has been one known case in the United States where a person, a bystander, walked right by each other and ignited the source into the nose, and it ended up, I don't know if the person ended up dying from it. But either case, we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I just can't, I don't understand. I've never been a smoker anyway, and I'm sure it's difficult to stop. But that's draping it off to the side on your armchair. Anytime you have oxygen and a fuel source nearby, you're always taking that risk and that possibility of something going
That's
wrong.
that fire triangle again.
Yeah, and you really need to keep those open flame sources and smoking materials away from things that will burn. It's not just oxygen. Oxygen helps for things to burn faster, but we see smoking fires because somebody left it, sitting on a table somewhere. They lost track of it on the couch or a chair. Their clothing ignites and those kinds of things. So we ask people, to be careful with those things, to be careful with their cigars and their cigarettes and their pipes, and understand, especially if you're smoking on oxygen, the risk of really injuring yourself or worse it gets really heightened.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind Coming up in the early parts of October is actual Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through October the 12th. Let's take some time and kind of go through what that week looks like with the fire department, some of the activities that we're going to be involved in and that we're asking the community to engage us in. Martin, let's start with you. October 7th, what are we doing in the schools?
We're actually going to do unannounced fire drills here
That'll
locally.
be fun.
We're not going to tell you where we're headed because all of it, obviously, schools are supposed to practice both on a private and public sector.
Yeah.
They're required to do fire drills every month, and when we go in unannounced, we're just going to go in, tell them to call their alarm company, and we're going to pull the alarm on them. And we're going to actually have people throughout the school to see how they actually operate, how effective are they.
Yep.
Because we just want to make it better and safer, because it's required to do that. So that's what we're doing on Monday. We're going to go to 15 schools on
Great.
Monday, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll perform well because our schools do a good job of
Yes, they
practicing
do.
those, not only fire drills, but tornado drills as well.
Yep.
Jose, on Tuesday, October the 8th, what do we have going on?
Tuesday, October 8th is one of our biggest events throughout the whole week, and that is our annual 5th grade zoo adventure. And basically, it's a field trip for all 5th graders throughout, not just in the city of Wichita, but all surrounding locations also. And basically, we have every little path along the zoo. There is a fun event, not just associated with the fire department, but we have Safe Kids, we have emergency medical service, we have Wichita Police Department,
Right.
we have airport fire rescue.
Yep.
It's just a fun event. The state highway patrol officer will be there with his rollover vehicle, and it's just a fun educational day of just learning about safety period throughout your life.
Yep.
And just kids have a good time, bring lunch, and there's rewards given out too.
Yep. Primarily, we target the schools to bring their 5th graders, but folks can show up with their kids if
Yes,
they
it's
want to.
open to the public, yes.
Absolutely. And
Yes,
it starts at 10, runs to 2.
Yes.
And we'd invite you to come out there and enjoy the zoo. On Wednesday, October 9th, Martin, we're going up to the North YMCA on North Woodlawn, is that right?
We've been at North Branch every year. We reach out to schools that are within walking distance to the North Branch up there and promote fire safety. We have obviously within our department, we have different types of fire apparatuses and stuff that we have that kids can get involved with. We do puppet shows. Captain Bevis is out there with Sporty, letting her do her thing.
Right. Sporty's our arson canine.
And it's been a good program every year we've put it on. And again, it's not just geared towards the schools either. It's geared towards everybody, the community.
It's open to
can
the
come out.
public.
Absolutely.
What time does that start? On
That starts
Wednesday
at 10 and it'll end at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So.
Then that afternoon, Jose, we're going to West Star. They're having a health fair at their facility.
Westar's invited us to participate in their annual health fair at 1900 East Central, and basically we're going to go there again. You know, what we're doing our job is basically prevention. You know, putting the message out of what fire safety is and what our job is, and being able to educate the public on fire safety.
That's near Central Street and the Canal Route. And what time are we going to get out there?
I believe if I recall correctly, the health fair is from 2 to 5, I believe.
Okay, so we'll be there. Look forward to that. On Thursday, October the 10th, we're going to spend our time addressing senior citizens in our community, and we have plans to go to Larksfield Senior Living Center.
Yeah, we're going to go there and basically give a program to the residents within the Larksfield organization. We're still determining a morning and afternoon sessions to be done over there, so we can try to get everybody involved with that. So looking forward to that.
That'd be a good time.
It's always
Absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely. And then on Saturday, October 12th, we're going to be at the annual Fallen Firefighters Memorial. That's located in the 1200 block of South Broadway. It's the Kansas Firefighters Museum. It will be a celebration of life and an acknowledgement of folks who have given their lives to
Sacrifice
help
for
others.
life safety.
Yep. Then the other thing I wanted to mention is, you don't have to just go to one of these events. You can go to any of our fire stations at any time, right?
Absolutely.
And talk to the firefighters. They're there 24/7, and you can walk in there and engage our firefighters who are your neighbors. They live in your neighborhood, in their neighborhood fire stations, to talk about fire safety and things that you can do to keep you and your family safe.
You're
That's
welcome.
it, guys. I appreciate you coming in and spending time with me. And we're very excited about the month of October and really appreciate the time that you took to come in and help us help the folks who live in our community learn more about fire safety.
Well, thank you for the invite there, Chief.
Appreciate you.
That concludes this episode of Burning Issues. Our mission is to provide our community excellent proactive fire and life safety services through prevention, education, and protection. Remember, Wichita firefighters are highly trained professionals that are your friends and neighbors. They are Wichita's bravest, and they're somewhere serving you every day.